Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and right now, as I speak, the local news segment talking about the super mayor going missing after the Lightfoot report has dropped is number 7 trending on YouTube. Number 7 on the platform of YouTube. Think about that. When Nate the Lawyer, Hannibal is Hungry, myself, and a few other YouTubers started covering this story, and it was a niche tale that we were bringing to you for the first time, did you ever think that this would reach national proportions? Did you ever think that the FBI, the state of Illinois, Lori Lightfoot running an independent third-party investigation would be what happened? Well, all of that has come to fruition, and now the super mayor is nowhere to be found. She is gone with the wind, and we gotta talk about it. But before we get into that, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel and made this story a trending story via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
So recently, with friend of the channel, Alf Benny, who will be linked in the description if you want to go subscribe to him, he's the one who makes those awesome TYT mashups, we did a live stream on the Dalton meeting where they actually revealed some of the mismanagement, just a slice from the preliminary report that the super mayor Tiffany A. Henyard has been engaged in her position as the mayor of the village of Dalton. Now, it is very important for everybody out there in the audience to understand that Tiffany Henyard is the person who is in charge of the Thornton Township as well. She is the head of the board of supervisors over there. All the same mismanagement and maybe worse mismanagement has gone on there. So this only addresses the village of Dalton. It only addresses what they have access to right now in this moment. And we don't even have the individual receipts for certain things that were spent on it. That being said, this was a cathartic moment, not just for the board of trustees who have been fighting the good fight all along, but for the residents of the village of Dalton who had enough of Tiffany Henyard. Now, of course, it was cathartic and also terrifying and horrifying, and I'll give you little bits of that so you could understand how bad things actually are.
Next, you can see is a graphic that depicts where we started as of April, where the village started as of April of 22, with positive of $5.6 million in the general fund, and where we are as of May of 2024, which is a negative $3.65 million.
Mayor Lightfoot, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Just kind of as a summary now, just quick numbers. So in a 2-year span, we're talking about a $9 million swing or $9 million of deficit over that course of time. Would that be most accurate?
Yes, sir.
So that's absolutely devastating. You go from surplus under the previous mayor, who, by the way, Tiffany Henyard called corrupt while she was running for election, and a lot of people had questions about that individual, to $3.65 million in deficit in the general fund. Now, of course, this doesn't factor in the $6 million in checks that need to be paid that aren't being paid because they don't have the money, and it doesn't cover the other fund, which I will highlight a little bit later. But for those of you out there in the audience who keep saying these people voted for this, these people got what they voted for, I will remind you for the millionth time that these people already voted out the super mayor almost instantly in a recall election, but one judge decided, since recalls aren't all that frequent in the state of Illinois, that she was going to throw out that recall vote. So the villagers have been against Henyard from the jump. They have been fighting against her, and she has decided to close the books, cut them off, lock them out of their town hall, and essentially do everything and anything in order to keep herself in power, despite the fact that these residents had turned against her a very long time ago. Just get your facts straight on this particular story. On top of that, there are some people who say that, oh, they voted for Tiffany A. Henyard because she was black. That's not actually true. They voted for her because she was a woman. They are already an overwhelmingly majority black town. They always had black representation in recent years, and the previous mayor, who was a black man, left them in a surplus. They voted for her because she was the first woman, she was the youngest woman, and again, ironically, she was running on an anti-corruption platform. She was running on transparency for the village. And when the other board of trustees members saw what she was doing in office, they turned against her, and the village turned against her. So at least give some credit to the people who have been fighting the good fight before the local news picked up this story, before YouTubers like myself picked up this story, and before it became so broad that, again, it's number 7 on trending right now on YouTube.com. Now, like I said, the corruption that was revealed is absolutely amazing and insane during the course of this meeting, and we saw it, for those of you who tuned into the live stream, for ourselves. But another perfect example of this is that we saw the general fund be depleted, but also on top of that, we saw that Amazon purchases were being made by the police department to the tune of over $40,000 in a single day.
We want to highlight a couple of credit card purchases. You're having the same reaction that we did when we saw this. So in particular, we were very concerned to see the top 3 purchases that were highlighted for you that were booked on January 5th of 2023. That's roughly $40,000, a little more than that, in credit card purchases on Amazon in the same day. And our understanding is that the village does not have an Amazon account. These are somebody using one of the credit cards and charging these amounts using your tax dollars.
Now, while the Amazon is the biggest number, I do want to point out that all of these appear to be consumer goods stores, and also very notable is the $7,000 that were spent on Wayfair right there. But more crucially, and what makes the Amazon purchases more notable, is that they're all made in a single day, and the village doesn't even have an official Amazon account. So this credit card that is backed by the taxpayers was put on somebody's personal Amazon account over at the Dalton Police. And speaking of the Dalton Police, we also got absolutely devastating numbers in what they're spending in overtime. Now, we've highlighted stories related to this before. We talked about Terry Young pulling in about 303 hours in a 2-week period when there's only 336 hours in a 2-week period total.
The officers are paid every 2 weeks, which without overtime is 80 hours. But when they're put on Henyard's detail, that 80 hours balloons to well over 100 hours, sometimes 200 hours. And in the case of Officer Terry Young last May, 303 hours worked over a 2-week period. That resulted in a single paycheck of more than $13,000.
How does a person put in a 2-week pay period, 303 hours? That's impossible. That's impossible.
336
Does he never go to sleep?
In fact, there are 336 hours total in 2 weeks, meaning Young was not being paid for only 33 hours over that period.
But now we see the salaries, and we realize that these 2 police officers in a small town of under 20,000 or in and around 20,000 people are making over $200,000. Again, the overwhelming majority of that is in overtime pay.
Within the police department expenditures, categories with large increases include overtime, other miscellaneous expenses, and I will tell you we don't know exactly what that is, but we're working on unpacking that, contractual services, other professional services, and medical insurance. We wanted to highlight for you, particularly given overtime, what we saw as 2 outliers in officers. Officer Terry Young and Officer William Reed. Both of these individuals in the last 2 years have earned more in overtime than their base compensation. And you can see these numbers here. Officer Terry Young in FY 2023 earned $194,290 total, given the base salary and the overtime. And then in FY 2024, that increased to $227,351, combining the base salary and the overtime. Officer Reed for FY 2023 had a total earnings of $145,450, and officer, and in FY 2024, 192 and 732.
Now, while these numbers are stunning, while they're shocking, they shouldn't be all that surprising to anyone out there in the audience, because one of Henyard's first moves when she came into office was that she took over the Dalton Police Department. And the way that she did that is not that the mayor is the head of the government, therefore the head of the police department. De facto, it was by getting rid of the previous police chief and installing her puppet, some idiot that we talked about time and time again, and who has acted in a thuggish way to be the enforcement arm of the supermayor. She also, by the way, while spending all this money on the police, has decreased the number of officers that are in the field in the village of Dalton, which has caused many a criminal instance to go off, and things have gotten significantly worse for the residents. The thing is, all of these officers' pay is deeply tied into her own personal security detail, which involves 4 separate SUVs that they lease, by the way, for a total of $750,000 when you factor out all the payments, and it's about 12 to 14 officers that are on her own personal detail, and they travel with her, they bill insane overtime, they participate in her publicity stunts. It's absolute madness in every possible way, but you can understand why the police are so quick to enforce all the craziness in the village of Dalton, including locking out the legislatures, the board of trustees, from their own village hall. Now look, I am no fan of Lori Lightfoot. When they brought her on, it did not make me happy because I think she should be relegated to the dustbin of history, but we have to give credit where credit is due. She is acting as kind of a savior in this situation, and the fact that she is a non-straight woman who was the mayor of Chicago gives her the necessary identity points credibility against Henyard's attacks, because you guys know that she was attacking her own board of trustees, all of whom were black, by the way, the overwhelming majority of them against her, for going after a black woman that is in power.
Because everybody want to say they look sideways stuff, and then now we got to sit and try to remember what y'all saying and then say something back just to tell the residents or show them that we are doing what's right. Because y'all got false narratives out there, and y'all should be ashamed of yourself. Y'all black. Y'all are black. And y'all sitting up here beating and attacking on a black woman that's in power. Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves. All the stuff that y'all did to get people to come to our community, to just diss and down our community. Shame on y'all.
And while most people didn't buy this, known idiot and professional racist Roland Martin used this as an opportunity to back Henyard, being one of the only people in public to back her. And of course, he should be stained with this for the rest of his career. But they did Lightfoot. Lightfoot ended up neutralizing it. And for whatever you want to say about her being the former mayor of Chicago, somebody so bad that Brandon Johnson ended up ousting her from that office, who's worse than her. She was a federal prosecutor for years, and she prosecuted this case. She presented in lame PowerPoint, but still presented an absolutely devastating accounting of what they've discovered so far that the supermayor has done. And honestly, it makes things significantly worse for the supermayor, because now she can't go after them, targeting her for being a woman in power, when they quite literally put a black woman who's not even a straight in power.
And like we first told you last night, not only did she find the village of Dalton is in significant debt, but she also found the village's credit card spending is out of control. Mayor Tiffany Henyard didn't respond to any of my requests today, and I'm told she's not in the building.
Now, it's important for you guys to all understand that I am speculating on the defense that the supermayor might try to hoist up in order to cover her you-know-what, based on the fact that she has been caught red-handed with this theft. And also because Keith Freeman, her money man, the guy that was formerly an enforcer for her and possibly her potential boyfriend, has flipped on her and turned state's evidence and has revealed all this corrupt information. But the fact of the matter is that will remain speculation, because like many chatters said in the comments of my live stream, and I honestly didn't believe was going to happen, Tiffany Henyard is in the wind. She's gone. Local reporters have sought out comment from her, and she is nowhere to be found.
No response to repeated interview requests. I tried to track down Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard in person today. Village employees told me she wasn't in the office and didn't say when she would be.
Now look, while it's not ironic at all whatsoever that Tiffany A. Henyard has fled, I mean, she is a coward, she is a criminal, and this is what they tend to do, I do want to point out that there is absolutely some amazing irony in the fact that she doesn't want to show her face anywhere. Tiffany A. Henyard, more than any other politician that I've known in my lifetime, has gone out of her way to promote herself and make herself into a celebrity. All these different little things that she does are always accompanied with photos of her. She actually wasted taxpayer dollars, not just in the village of Dalton, but in the Thornton Township, to put billboards and posters, her name on absolutely everything, calendars, and all this other stuff. And the fact of the matter is, now that the supermayor has achieved the fame that she wanted, now that she is number 7 trending on YouTube and rising, by the way, she's nowhere to be found. This is almost like a Black Mirror-esque result for her, or a Twilight Zone kind of plot twist, and I'm totally here for it. And the fact that she is fleeing accountability just shows you that what we've been saying all this time, what the residents of the village of Dalton have been saying all this time, what the board of trustees have been saying all this time, and what the local news and YouTubers and everybody has been saying all this time has been 100% true. So while it was devastating to hear how they were spending their money, I can't help but notice the fact that there was so much optimism in the community now that they're officially taking their community back. And for those of you who, again, criticize them for the way that they voted, I just want to point out that the previous guy left the surplus. They acknowledged Tiffany Henyard was a problem when they voted her out via recall, but even further than that, they're also talking about how it's wildly inappropriate to vote for anybody just because they're black or female or some combination of the two.
Good evening, residents. My name is Cassandra Jordan. I've been a resident here in Dalton for 16 years. And when I look at the situation and everything that's going on, I can just honestly say I'm just so disgusted with what is going on in this village. And I want to encourage the voters, because I've come to the point that I don't just vote because you're just black. We have to start doing our due diligence and start researching the people that we actually cast our votes for. We can no longer just take handouts and because you're my favorite or because I like you. We have to literally start doing our research. And for those of you that voted for Tiffany, I'm just going to honestly say it. You might not like me. You just didn't do your research. I mean, you can honestly look at this chick and see that there was an issue and that there was a problem. I mean, when you do your research, you see, I mean, if you got a person with a criminal background, who in their right mind would have put her in position? So I say to you all, do your due diligence and just stop voting for people because they're black. We have to do our research. And if a lot of you all had done your research, a lot of this stuff would have been avoided.
Look, the road ahead for the village of Dalton is going to be a rough one. They already have problems with vendors in that they won't start work without full payment due to the fact that Tiffany Henyard has not been paying them. Again, they spoke about how there were $6 million in checks that were written and owed that were never sent out by the supermayor. They have a $3.65 million deficit in the general fund, but in another fund that they were not supposed to be spending on expenses, it was actually meant to accrue interest. It's their rainy day fund. $2 million from it was depleted to the point where they only have $3,900 in that account.
In addition to the main operating account, historically, the village has held its excess cash in an account known as Illinois funds. Illinois funds are interest-bearing accounts that are managed by the Illinois Treasurer's Office that allow municipalities to earn interest on their excess cash balance. The balance in the Illinois funds account as of June 30th was only $3,900. As of April 30th, 2021, that balance was over $2 million. So the balance of excess cash has dropped by over $2 million in that time period.
So there's no money. The cupboard is bare. These people are absolutely devastated in every possible way. And yet there is some optimism. There is somebody willing to step up to the job. And of course, that is Trustee House. And I give the man credit for doing so. And I obviously don't believe that he's going to turn out to be as corrupt or corrupt like the supermayor, because even if he wanted to, there's no more money. The thing about the super mayor that makes her special in comparison to the previous guy, who again people were concerned about potential corruption with, is that the previous guy, if he was corrupt, knew better than to kill the golden goose. He knew better than to destroy all of the money, to waste all of it, to incinerate all of it, because you need something to keep the town running, and you need to have something ongoing in order to get more of a payoff. But the super mayor knows no bounds. The super mayor knows no limitations. She has no foresight. She is that crazy, she is that sinister, and she is that stupid. She depleted everything. She depleted their credit rating. Vehicles were getting repossessed. All sorts of madness plagued the village of Dalton during her reign, and I'm happy to say it finally comes to an end. All we need is another mugshot from the super mayor. All we need is for all of us to see the public trial, and this will be brought to an end. And again, I hate to take the victory lap, although I love to take the victory lap, but I was on this story incredibly early. Nate the lawyer on this story incredibly early. Black Conservative Perspective on this story incredibly early. Hannibal is Hungry and a bunch of other people whose videos I did not see related to this have also reached out to me to say that they got on this early. We made this happen. The villagers for sure made it happen. The board of trustees for sure made it happen. The local news for sure made it happen. But this is YouTubers bringing this to the national stage. And by the way, everybody out there in the audience who watched, who shared, who told the story, who spread the legend of the super mayor, you also made this happen. The villagers of Dalton owe you a great debt for getting this national attention on this, and now they can finally heal. They can finally return to their previous state where maybe they have some little bits of pay to play, little bits of corruption in their government, but overall, it's still a functioning government. Now, of course, I want to leave this open to all of you guys out there in the audience. I want to know what you think about the new developments and the super mayor being in the wind, being gone, taking off, and how she's going to come back with a vengeance in order to take back her village, and how crazy things are actually going to get. All your thoughts down in the comments below. And as usual, if you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the super mayor taking off and running. Till next time.